Hello students, in the last section or class we learned about fungus or fungi as a class or as a kingdom of plants. Now proceeding ahead, we are left with the plantae. When we say plantae, we are talking about all the green plants, and hence from plant animal classification we restrict ourselves now for this session and the next session to the plant classification only. That is the classification of plantae, the kingdom plantae, as was proposed by Arvid Taker, repeatedly the name we have used so far. Now, the kingdom plantae has further in general been classified into two broad categories. And these two broad categories are cryptogams and phanerogams. Now, the basic difference if we look at cryptogams and phanerogams is that the cryptogams do not bear any seeds. Whereas, when we look at phanerogams include all the plants, irrespective of the size, habitat, etc., which bear seeds. And then cryptogams, that is non-seed bearing plants. I repeat, non-seed bearing plants have further been classified into two sub-broad categories, thallophytes and pteridophytes. When we say thallophytes, means plants with a thallus. Thallus means a plant structure in which there is no stem, there is no reed, there is no leaf, there is no flower. That means the plant is not classified. It is just like a mass, like a bread piece that you see. If the structure is like that, without any differentiation, we say that the plant belongs to thallophyte. But if it is classified, or you can classify the parts of plant into stem, root, leaf, etc., then it is no more thallophyte, but it can be pteridophyte or it can be a phanerogam. Among thallophytes, we have algae, lichen and bryophytes. Algae, all the greens come, the colored water of oceans like Red Sea, Sargasso Sea, which is brownish in color, etc. They all belong to the class that we call as algae. And then lichens, actually these are the composite plants. These composite plants have 95% of fungus, of fungi plus 5% of cyanobacteria, blue-green algae. That is, if you have got 100 grams of lichen, if you take 100 grams of lichen, 95 grams of that lichen would be made up of fungus, and another 5 grams would be made up of cyanobacteria. And hence, these algae and fungi staying together in the symbiotic relationship survive as a composite plants. And then come bryophytes. Bryophytes are the first greenish sort of plants. They look like plants, but they are not actually. They can be bread-like, laterally flat, or they can be a structure like this. Or if I draw it like this, particularly you see them, these plants growing if you visit a hilly area or the grass just very close to the surface. These sort of plants are found or even in the Arctic. They are known by the name what you call as reindeer moss. Reindeer, is an animal that is restricted to the Arctic area, Arctic regions. And these reindeer, these animals live feeding on this on these bryophytes, and hence we call it as reindeer moss. And then in phanerogams we have gymnosperms and angiosperms. The basic difference between gymnosperm and angiosperm is that gymnosperms are non-flowering. Whereas angiosperms are plants that are flowering. That means both gymnosperms and angiosperms do produce seeds. But still they differ because gymnosperms do not produce any flower. Whereas when we look at angiosperms, they produce flower. And hence we call gymnosperms non-flowering seed plants and angiosperms as flowering seed plants. Right? So that is in general the classification of plantae comes into as proposed. Proceeding with the questions. The most primitive means ancient plants devoid of any body differentiation. That means divide means they don't have any body differentiation. They belongs to Pteridophyta, they have the differentiation. Gymnosperm, they belong to phanerogams. Ferns are pteridophytes, again they have the differentiation. And hence we are left with Thallophyta. Because Thallophyta includes algae, lichen, bryophytes. And all these three, they have a thallus structure. That means plant structure with no root, shoot, stem, leaf, etc., including flower. And hence, thallophytes with the most primitive plant is the correct option. Next, the plants considered to be a good indicator of air pollution. Now, this is a very important question because many times the question has been asked in the previous year's papers that the plant considered to be a good indicator of air pollution or lichens, that is the precise answer, are the indicators of air pollution, water pollution, land pollution, in one way or other. This question has been repeated. Because lichens, as I mentioned, they are the composite plants consisting of fungi and algae, in which fungi absorb water, algae manufacture the food. And then the two share the food made by the 5% of algae. Hence, any slightest change in the quality of the air that you can consider as pollution of air affects the survival of lichens. And particularly, it has been observed and studied if the air pollution is caused by SO2, that is sulfur dioxide, the lichens perish overnight. That is, here is a plant, here is a bunch of lichens, healthy, growing well. Just for a few hours, if we expose these lichens to the air containing sulfur dioxide, all the lichens would perish. And that is why they are considered as an indicator of the air pollution. Something that the scientists use to assess this effect, the severe effect of the air pollution. in a given area. Next, Sargasso Sea. Sargasso Sea, if you remember, being a good student of the geography, that Sargasso Sea is a part of North Atlantic Ocean. And in this North Atlantic Ocean, at a particular region, the sea appears slightly brownish in color, golden brownish in color, golden brown in color. And then, question did arise. What makes the water of this North Atlantic part of the ocean to appear brownish or golden brown? Later it was realized that it was because of the presence of brown algae. Algae, you know, they are aquatic, they are found only in water in the moist places, that imparts the brownish color to the surface of the water of the ocean. And hence that area close to in the North Atlantic, because of the presence of the brown algae called Sargasso, right? The name Sargasso Sea came in. Again, it's an important question because the brown ocean, the brown part of the ocean is found where? In North Atlantic. What imparts the brown color to the Sargasso Sea? Again, then the answer comes is Sargasso, right? Which part of the sea is called Sargasso Sea and why? Because of the presence of the brown algae Sargasso. So in one way or other, this question has again been repeatedly asked in the previous exams. Next, a good source of non-metal iodine. Being a student of iodine, you know, iodine is a halogen. A non-metal, which is lustrous, that means which is shiny like a metal. And where do we naturally get this iodine from? Actually, if we look into the iodine we get from what we call as laminaria, the brown algae. The main source of non-metal iodine, a halogen. Iodine, a halogen that belongs to 17th group of periodic table, is a solid, lustrous non-metal, and its natural source is none but is brown algae laminaria. Next, the green scum seen on the surface of stagnant water is off. Green scum means, you know, if you go on the roadsides where there is hand pumps for drinking water, on the side surface close to the hand pump, you will find a green covering on the stone or on the ground surface. Same if there is a pond where the water is stagnant, you find that the upper surface of the water is greenish in color. Now, what that green color is because of? Is it because of some pigment? Or because of some chemical that has been added into the water? No, it is all because of what we call as green algae. That is, if it is the water mass, these algae, they float on the surface of water and hence also called as algal bloom. That means a rich growth of algae on the surface of the water, and that scum naturally then becomes the algae, which is green algae. Just like if the water is mixed with red algae, the surface of the water would appear red. If it has got brown algae, then it would appear brownish in color. In a similar fashion, if it has got green algae, it would appear green in color from the surface. Because these algae be buoyant. Buoyant means lighter, will float on the surface of water and impart that color to the water underneath. Right? The next, the rich natural source of litmus used in laboratory is, litmus you know. In laboratory you use red litmus and you use blue litmus. Red remains red in acid, blue remains blue in bases. But red would turn blue into a base. Similarly, in presence of acid, a blue litmus would turn red. Now this litmus paper or litmus solution available in the laboratory, chemistry laboratories or biology laboratories, is obtained from where? Where do we get it from? Naturally, this litmus is obtained from what we call as a plant lichens. There is a particular type of a lichen plant that is grounded, that is collected, grounded, and once ground, the extract obtained from it is filtered and condensated. That is water parent is evaporated to make it more condensed for being later used as an indicator solution in the laboratory for you to realize whether the given solution is an acid or base. Because as you are aware, both acid and base are transparent. Just by looking at them, we can't realize which one is base or which one is acid. So this indicator solution of litmus help us to recognize or differentiate or identify the acid and a base. Right? Then the plants considered to be the amphibians of plant kingdom are amphibians. If you remember, amphibian is the word used for animals that can live both on land and in water, such as frog, toads. They need water for their survival because they need water for reproduction. Both male and female lay their eggs and sperms in the water and where the external fertilization takes place to produce the offsprings in the form of tadpoles which undergo the development changes to develop into a young frog. But any animal that is capable of living both on land and in water, while having the necessity of water for the process of reproduction, for process of fertilization, is considered as an amphibian. And in the plant kingdom, if we look into, it is the mosses, which belongs to the class of bryophytes. That are the amphibians, because these plants, they produce the sperms which are flagellated. That means they have the sperms like this, with a tail-like structure. And hence, for the swimming to reach to the respective ova in the female reproductive part, they need a medium. And that swimming medium is none but is water. So they can survive even if the water is not there as long as the conditions are moist and temperature is comparatively less. But can't reproduce if there is no liquid water. Liquid water means water present in its liquid state. Therefore, again, the answer comes out to be the mosses. Mosses are the plants considered the amphibians of the plant kingdom. Then next, the plants which need water for fertilization are. Thus, in the previous question, we have talked about the bryophytes to be the amphibians of the plant kingdom. So the first bryophyte is okay. Now, pteridophyte, if we look into, these are the first terrestrial plants. Terrestrial means the plant growing on the land. But still, the sperms they produce are flagellated. That means to reach to the ovum or ova, within the female reproductive system, they need to swim. And hence, again, the medium is water. So these pteridophytes also need water for the process of fertilization. Now, cycas, if we look at, cycas, if you look deep into the plants, you realize they are considered as living fossils. I repeat, cycas are the plants, the type of gymnosperm that are considered as living fossils. And why are they considered as living fossils? Because all the gymnosperms do not produce flagellated sperms. That is, they do not need water for fertilization. But when it comes to the cycas, belonging to the genus Cycadales, it produces sperms which is flagellated, which has the flagella or a hair-like structure to swim in the water. Therefore, cycas also needs the presence of water for fertilization. And hence, the option 4 comes out to be correct, that all bryophytes, pteridophytes and cycas, they need water for the presence of water for the fertilization. Next, the first plants to manufacture food by photosynthesis were. Now, first plant, that means some 4.5 billion years ago or 5 billion years ago, when the earth originated or evolved from the Big Bang. Slowly, life has evolved from one to another, from prokaryote to eukaryote. And then naturally there must have come a stage when the evolving upcoming organisms, have started using the solar energy to make their own food. Now, which those first organisms were to carry out the photosynthesis? That's what the question is asking for. The first plants to manufacture, that means to make their own food by photosynthesis. Is it green algae, liverworts, which are bryophytes, lichens, which are mixture of plants, blue-green algae? The correct option comes to be blue-green, because these are again belongs to the part of Monera. Monera means these are plants which do not have still well-developed cells. But because some of these blue-green algae happen to develop chlorophyll, the solar energy absorbing pigment, even in the higher plants, they were able to synthesize their food by the photosynthesis. And hence, in the evolutionary line of the photosynthesis, we consider that The mechanism of photosynthesis started from cyanobacteria onwards up to the higher plant that we see or we know. But the first one was cyanobacteria or blue-green algae, BGA as we call. BGA. That's the abbreviated form for B for blue, G for green, and A for algae. Right? Next, a pteridophyte grown in rice fields to improve soil fertility is Diopteris, Azolla, Funaria, mushroom. Mushroom is a fungi, Funaria is a moss. So we are left with two options, Diopteris and Azolla. Diopteris, is the fern that you see in the sitting room of the people. And people, in order to decorate their sitting rooms, normally keep plants in the corridors or inside the sitting room, some fern plants. Right, those fern plants are none but the type of Diopteris. So we are left with Azolla. Azolla is a pteridophyte. And specificity of Azolla is that it is aquatic. That is, it grows in the water. Second, that if you look at its leaves are striated. That is, they have got these edges inborn. And in these edges there are certain cavities that are the areas where blue-green algae can live. Not can, but live. And living in these cavities of the leaves of Azolla plant, blue-green algae, some of them, they are capable of fixing the atmospheric nitrogen into the simple compounds of nitrogen, such that once the nitrogen is fixed in the soil, in the water, in the paddy fields, the farmer need not to add the nitrogen fertilizer to the field. That would help save him money, save him time, and also the pollution in the long run that might have occurred in the production of fertilizer that the farmer is going to use in his field. So, this Azolla, as a pteridophyte, is planted in the rice fields, in the paddy fields, when the rice crop is planted, in order to enrich the soil with the nitrogen content. Right? So that's for the first part of the plant day, that includes the cryptogams. In the next, we'll talk about the phanerogams and the composite of the whole plant day, the kingdom plant day. Thanks.